I don't want to stay in the problem. I want to live in the solution. Take small steps. You don't have to conquer the whole mountain in the day. How can I have one conversation to feel a little bit better? What little tiny steps can I start to take to make this whole thing feel better?
Welcome to the High Vibe Life podcast, where we are obsessed with all things manifestation, neuroscience, personal growth, and quite simply, living a life beyond our wildest dreams. I'm Moira, author, speaker, podcaster, manifestation, and mindset master. Since getting sober 25 years ago, I've helped tens of thousands of women break through and achieve massive levels of wealth, joy, and freedom. Now it's your turn. Let's dig in.
Welcome back to the High Vibe Life podcast with me, Moira Casaba. We are going to dig into a topic that I think affects all of us, and that is fear, especially from a parent's perspective. Ironically, and I'm going to try to say this without getting emotional, today is the anniversary of when my son was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes 4 years ago. And I will tell you, as a parent of a type 1 diabetic, as a parent of a teenage boy type 1 diabetic, and all the other things that they can get in trouble with, it is my greatest fear. It is the fear that keeps me up at night. It is oftentimes completely overwhelming, downward spiraling, hopeless, and I've had to do a heck of a lot of work to overcome all the fears that I have around that. And I know that so many of us have all kinds of fears, right, in our life as it relates to our children, about their futures, about, them being out driving and all the things, drinking and drugs and boys and, teenage girls and all the things that come with that. And I had an experience a few weeks ago where for no reason at all, and this is kind of the irony of fear, we were in a weekend that was magic. Like we had some really big life things happen with our kids that your dreams are made of. Like we couldn't have believed it. And, all the hard work paid off and we were celebrating. And it was so many magic moments of like, gosh, I never knew if I could even believe that we would be here with our kids. And at the same time, so on top of that, comes the fear, comes the irrational fear that can keep me up at night, that can leave what felt like at that point, it was kind of like a 2-day downward spiral. I remember waking up on a Monday morning and feeling like I almost couldn't catch my breath. Like I couldn't stop my heart from racing for hours. I was doing a lot of breath work and meditation and all the things that we talk about here and all the things I teach. But I also knew that I needed to do some deeper work. I often think about the work as the dream work, which is like the fun, vision, goals, reverse engineering, like what are your biggest goals, vision board stuff. That's the dream work. And then I talk about it as the daily work, the things that we need to do every day. And this is going to link in. And then the deep work, right? And this was a day where I woke up and I realized after a couple hours of feeling like I couldn't think straight, I couldn't get things done, that this fear was so big that it was time to do some deep work. And I will also say that it's been summer. And so I haven't been as consistent as I usually am with the daily work. And I've talked about this a lot. There's even a podcast we'll link in the show notes about the dream work, the daily work, and the deep work. But the daily work prevents us a lot of times from having to do as much deep work, right? Summertime around here, life is crazy. The daily routine often goes out the window, right? I'm not doing it as consistently. And if you think about it this way, if you are working out every day or, 5-6 days a week and you're eating the right foods and you're drinking enough water and you're using your supplements, you are often keeping illness at bay, right? You're able to be strong enough with your immune system, with your health, with your energy to keep sickness away. That makes sense, right? It's the same thing with the daily work. When we're doing it every single day, we're kind of really treading water in the best of ways. We're keeping our head above water. The things can come at us in life and we tend to rise above. They tend to not knock us over. But when we're not doing the daily work, wow, those things show up in our life and really it feels like a big curveball. And that's what happened to me. So I've taken notes and I want to break these things down for you. Let me see how many we have. We have 8. So I wanted to really dig into, how do I do the deep work around fear? What do I need to identify? What do I need to process? What do I need to do, right? That's my question all the time. What do I need to do about this? And so number 1, when you're dealing with a big fear, is to name the fear. Name the fear. What is it that you're actually afraid of? And so this is really interesting. This was after I was doing some research, that this is, I think it's from Brendan Burchard. So he talks about you either have a fear of loss, a fear of process, or a fear of outcome. So let me explain. Fear of loss, obviously, is losing something or someone that you love. Fear of process, a process fear, is the fear that the journey will be too hard. You're just fearful that it's going to be too hard, that you're not going to be able to cut it, right? That you're not going to come out the other side. And then fear of outcome is the fear that it won't work out on the other side. So I could identify my fear absolutely was fear of loss. Underneath that feeling was the fear that I would lose my son. Wasn't planning on using the real life example as much as we're going there, but we're going there. So getting specific about what's triggering the fear is the very first step to taking back your control. Okay, so name the fear. Step number 2, understand it. Is it rational? Is it irrational? And of course, when we're stuck in that fear loop, we can so quickly go like, this is rational, like this is life or death, or this is so possible that this outcome might not turn out the way I want it to, right? But really start to dig into that. Like, how likely is it that that outcome happens? What are the statistics behind the reality of what you're fearing the most? The more you understand the fear, the less you're giving it power, right? All right, so that's step number 2. Step number 3, shift your focus. This is so huge. So instead of obsessing over the fear and letting it consume every single thought, what's the other side of it? So I'm going to go about this 2 different ways. What's the other side of fear, right? Is there an opportunity that this thing can actually help you to grow? Or is there, an upside to it? So this is how you're flipping the script on the fear. This is my way of always saying, how is this a gift? So shifting your focus can be shifting the focus within the fear. Where is the gift in this so-called problem, right? But you can also shift your focus by getting completely detached from even the thought process at all, right? That might mean like going to an exercise class, going for a walk with a girlfriend, watching a movie. I was actually telling Brian the other night that there was a season where I was going through a lot of really hard things, and it wasn't fear, but it was so emotionally hard that I was actually watching a lot more like Netflix shows in a healthy way, right? You can do that in an unhealthy way, or you can do that in a healthy way. But there was a season where I needed to just stop the thoughts. I needed to stop the feelings that I was feeling in that season. And television or a movie actually really helped me to just shift the focus, right? So shift the focus within the fear. What is the gift in this? And shift the focus completely outside of the fear. Number 4, this is big. Build competence. Fear often comes from feeling unprepared or incapable. So this is where you start to seek out what skills or knowledge or resources or mentors do I need in this, right? There's a saying in Alcoholics Anonymous, we often talk about staying in the solution and not the problem, or surrendering, right? Surrendering the problem. And I remember in early sobriety hearing that all the time, and I would hear, you need to surrender it. You need to surrender it. And I was like, okay, what the heck? Like, I don't know how you do that. I don't know what, how do I actually surrender, right? And I remember somebody sharing one time that, what does surrender look like on a battlefield? Well, the side that surrenders really gets the call, and somebody says, the war's over, the fight's over, we've surrendered, and the soldiers just pretty much sit down, lay down their weapon, and they wait for the next command, right? That is their act of surrender. So for me, what I remember linking that to was Surrender meant taking action. Surrender meant, okay, instead of obsessing over the problem, staying in the problem, I don't want to stay in the problem. I want to live in the solution. When you're living in the solution, once you've surrendered, it looks like action, right? What do I need to learn? What do I need to listen to? Who do I need to hire? Maybe it's calling a counselor. Maybe it's hiring an expert. Maybe for our children, it's plugging them into some of those resources. But the second you start to take action and you're not just consumed by the thoughts of the fear, you're going to feel so much better. So that one is a really, really big one. All right, take small steps. So this is the next step, right? You've taken some action. Take small steps. You don't have to conquer the whole mountain in the day, right? We so often think, how am I going to solve this? And so often, especially in my situation, there's nothing to solve, right? How can I have one conversation to feel a little bit better? How can I have a different conversation with my son and one with my husband as well? Maybe it's having a conversation with my daughter about being the backup for us and knowing what to look for, right? What little tiny steps can I start to take to make this whole thing feel better? Number 6, we kind of talked about this, but reframe the fear. So instead of seeing fear as a stop sign, see it as your signal. I truly believe that our emotions are just signals, right? It's God, universe, whatever you want to call it, saying, pay attention. Pay attention. There's something here where I need you to take action. I need you to shift something. I need you to have the conversation. I need you to hire the expert. And shifting that to, oh my gosh, maybe this is a gift. Maybe this feeling is just prodding me into action, changes everything. Number 7, seek support. We've already talked about this. This is where you really need to ask yourself, who do I need to pull into my corner? Maybe it's other moms that are struggling with the same thing. Maybe it's a Facebook group that you can go into and just say, hey, this is where I'm at right now. This is what I'm struggling with. And I just need some advice. How do you handle this, right? Seek out support. We should not be going through any of this alone. And I'm telling you, there is a world out there that is ready to support you, ready to love you, ready to come alongside you and give you solutions and give you answers. And if nothing else, give you a shoulder, which we all need. And then number 8, practice courage. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's taking action despite it. I tell my children this all the time. I've raised them this way, that, right? Courage is not the absence of fear. It's feeling it and walking through it. And the more steps that you can take, shifting it, reframing it, reaching out for support, hiring an expert, having conversations, every single step you take is a step of courage. And once you do that, you are going to get to the other side of fear. So you guys, I hope this resonates with you. I hope this helps. Pass this episode along to a friend. I get it on every single level. Being a mom is the hardest job in the world, but we can do this and we can do this together. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next week.